We are at some point going to have to remind people of the brutal reality that is our current, well, voting system. No doubt, of course, you've seen lots of people celebrating about the fact that, oh, look, Jeremy Corbyn's party could get like 15% of the vote based on a hypothetical. That's if people would, vote for a full on socialist party. After all, they didn't do so in 2019 where the Labour Party had its biggest loss ever. Not only that, but where does that 15% actually spread out across the country? How does that actually mean when it comes down to an individual seat? Because remember, it is all about winning seats. If you do not win enough seats, who cares? And even in those seats, even if you do come second, there's no prize for coming second place. It is winner take all. Winner take absolutely all. And I am very, very interested to see this morning that one of the guys who actually set up the Yorkshire Party actually wrote a blog about this, a guy called Stewart Arnold. And he set up the Yorkshire Party a couple of years ago. Now, you could actually argue the Yorkshire Party actually achieved all its goals in many respects. The only thing it really didn't achieve was having a Yorkshire regional parliament. And my feelings have somewhat shifted on that over the years. I think now that we've got the Yorkshire now being sort of devolved, I think it's now got all these regional mayors. I think that devolution ultimately has sort of proven to be very successful, but that wasn't ultimately driven by the Yorkshire Party, despite the fact that they claim otherwise. But nowadays, honestly, the Yorkshire Party's become a little bit of a joke, if we're honest. Not really that major a political force. They don't even have any councillors, as far as I'm at least from what I remember. They don't have any councillors now. They've never really come close to winning any regional mayor elections or MPs. But there are realities, of course, to starting, shall we say, a new party. And this guy, Stewart, um, gives a real, honest, brutal reality of what it is to actually start a new party. So let's have a look what he's got to say about this, because no doubt Jeremy Corbyn and co are looks like trying to do something. How successful this is only going to be, I don't know, but once again, I'm sure it will be totally successful, right? Again, if all these people put half the effort they do into like getting Zach Polanski elected or setting up this Jeremy Corbyn party as they did in Labour, maybe things would be different in the Labour Party. But again, these people, they tried nothing in the Labour Party, and what could they do? They tried nothing. Anyway, before we get on into this, please do, of course, remember to click the like and share button. And, of course, don't forget to hit the subscribe bell as well. So, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And, of course, down below, there's the links to my Patreon page. There's the Buy Me Coffee link. There's the YouTube thank you button. And, of course, there's the YouTube membership button down below as well. So, thank you very much to all those people who do help. So, let's crack on then into this, coming from the Yorkshire Bylines. So, the title is Thinking of Starting a New Party, Jeremy? Think again. So, should Jeremy Corbyn seek my advice on setting up a new political party? I would say, as someone who has been there, got the t-shirt, or specifically the mug, don't do it. I can't comment now on the electoral potential for a socialist breakaway party, but I can see, at least I can say, that forming a new party comes with no little blood, sweat, and tears. So, the Yorkshire Party. Along now with two like-minded souls, I set up the Yorkshire Party back in 2014, in advance of the European parliamentary elections in June of that year. Essentially, it was a name only. We didn't even have an accepted party symbol at that point, but we just wanted to test our core idea of Yorkshire devolution, and through a regional-wide election would be now the perfect laboratory. Although, of course, the result gave an Democratic Party vote a modest 20,000 votes over the entire region, there was now enough goodwill and even particular offers now of ongoing support to actually convert this trial run into something more durable. In other words, to actually form a real political party. And you notice what he's saying here. We did a trial run. We used the European parliamentary elections at that time to do a trial run. We got 20,000 votes. We got a lot of goodwill. We got a lot of support. So we went, then let's do this. Let's try and build something on that. Corbyn's party is built on a lot of well hopes and dreams, in the fact that, oh my god, this could work, but it's never been put to the test. Same for Zach Polanski in the Green Party. His ideas of what he's putting forward and wants to advance have never really been put to the test. Like I say, baptism of fire. So within a year, we then had a leader, a deputy leader, a website, a constitution, an executive committee, paid up members, political groupings, branches, vetting procedures for candidates, now for all other trappings now a party then comes with. And then, of course, lies in the problem. If you are looking at constructing a party's internal mechanisms, that is the time you are not outward facing in terms of campaigning, and of course, getting what you hope is a distinct message across. Political parties are nothing if not campaigning organizations. They are not there to discuss operational minutes, such as who precisely on the executive committee should have voting rights and who can actually propose constitutional amendments at a conference. Again, all the boring stuff that, if you really want to make change in a party, probably we should be looking at. Where can you affect change in that? Where, what can you do within a party? And like I say, a lot of these people on the left, especially these JC backers, or shall we say the Green runners, because yes, I've also have seen the poll, the poll that shows about what over 54% of Green Party members wouldn't vote for Green Party. They would vote for Jeremy Corbyn's party. Again, bad news if you're Zach Polanski. Anyway, in, of course, addition, he continues with a lot of leadership's time then spent on dealing with personal matters, trying to massage egos, lifting morale, managing expectations, and trying to reinvigorate defeated candidates. There will be now a lot of those in the early days. Then there are the inevitable disputes. Clashes of different kinds amongst members in a very small party can cause a huge disruption. So dispute mechanisms need to be very robust and have trained people in charge of their implementation. And oh boy, if we've seen already that there's already been infighting and the party hasn't even really been formed yet, good luck. Good luck. It is, of course, very vital that these disputes do not become bitter and protracted, as the media will be now on the lookout for any division, along for any bust-ups, slip-ups, and gaffes. The party's instinct is often now to try and control the behavior from the centre as a way of trying to avoid this. But it now has to try and balance against letting people participate and learn to do politics. And after all, doing politics is surely why people join a political party, especially anyone so with little history in the first place. And then again, party political funding. There is also then the question of finance. Running a political party has never been cheap, especially in the modern era, where professional software is now needed to run databases for members, supporters, and those now likely to vote for a new party, and so on. In the absence now of large corporate donors, it takes a lot of work to raise even modest amounts by way of donations now from members and supporters, a task where the leader has to be front and center. Once again, this is an activity that means the leader is not campaigning and not putting the party's message across in the media. So, what does success actually look like? So, finally, this is the question now of the end result. Part of the reason for setting up the Yorkshire Party was the view of some involved in the already established cross-party, non-party group. The Yorkshire devolution movement, one that, of course, achieved devolution in the region and pressure now on the established parties, was best done through the ballot box. This is a very comparable way to the way that UKIP's relative success forced the Conservatives into calling for a Brexit referendum. And you'll notice this was a single party issue. This was a single party issue. UKIP, single party issue. You want to leave the EU. Everything else was all secondary. Yorkshire Party, we want Yorkshire devolution. Everything else was secondary. And to the extent, technically, the Yorkshire Party, again, somewhat succeeded in that, as he says himself. He says, it continues on this. In many ways, of course, the Yorkshire Party has succeeded, or at least partially succeeded. After all, in our region, the devolution genie is now out of the bottle, as we now have 4 directly elected mayors with meaningful powers to impact now their local communities. Again, what happened to the one Yorkshire idea? Again, I was a big fan of the one Yorkshire idea. I think that would have been far, far better for the region. But again, we've now got 4. So who knows? Maybe it's a question that can be asked in a couple of years' time. Who knows? The Yorkshire, of course, devolution purists would, of course, argue that this is not enough. They, of course, would seek a one Yorkshire deal. Oh, I like the fact that I would be classed as a purist within the movement. So a one Yorkshire deal with now an elected assembly now for the region, but undoubtedly progress has been made since the formation of the Yorkshire Party back in 2014. So success of sorts has been achieved. Is the problem. Devolution was already happening. That's the honest truth. That's why the Yorkshire Party can go, oh, well, we succeeded, but you succeeded on something that was already happening. So, what chance does Corbyn have? Although now there is the undoubted thrill of seeing an enthusiastic individuals trying to join a team and, of course, try to find people in good numbers to actually vote for what you believe in, saving deposits, or even trying to pile up votes in good second places is not a substitute for the substantial change you seek. And this is it. The Corbyn party has no chance of winning. No chance of winning. And as I recently put on one poll where I saw, oh, look, how great it is that Jeremy's polling at 15%. Meanwhile, Reform's all the way there at like 34%. And I'm like, well, all that graph shows me is you're very, very happy to let Nigel Farage win. And oh boy, kick a hornet's nest did I on that. Yeah, there's a lot of people who still can't come to terms with our voting system, how it works. And, really in the cold light of day, I would never, ever want to reform government. So I will do everything in my power not to have that government. We've seen what happens in the reform local councils. Do you want that now to happen at a national government level? Apparently, some do because, they want to just feel good that they voted for Jeremy Corbyn. So that when there is, Prime Minister Farage and God knows what he would do, they can go, well, at least I voted for Jeremy Corbyn. Whatever helps them sleep at night. So, it continues. I do not know, of course, what Jeremy Corbyn's new party would see as a success, but whatever it is, I doubt that it can be done without the cooperation and collaboration without others across the political landscape. In summary, it might be that this new party, of course, captures the imagination of the electorate. And certainly, a nature of the new venture may, of course, excite many. However, distractions, mostly administrative, that will come now with setting up this new party could have the potential now to undermine that exact same excitement and cause the whole project to fail. So, we'll see what happens. And don't worry, I am absolutely keeping an eye on what happens here. There is a reason why Zach Polanski didn't go and set up a new party. It's why they said, oh, look, the Green Party's there. We could infiltrate this and just take it over because everything's already built for them in many ways. They don't have to do all that admin stuff. They just have to prove that Zach Polanski's political theories of politics work. And bad news for you, they don't. Bad news for you, they don't. But if anyone ever wants to have a discussion with that with me, by all means. But as always, let me know what you think about all this. I do have some, very strong feelings on sort of the Yorkshire Party. I think their time is long done. I think there's no reason for it to exist anymore. I think, pushing for devolution, again, something that was happening anyway, was good, but could have been done within political parties. And it certainly was done with other political parties because the Yorkshire Party did work with other political parties. And I tell you now, you see a lot of other, people in the Greens, people on the left, who will not work with other political parties. And remember, politics is all about building bridges. It's all about building coalitions. Yet these people do not seem to understand that. One thing I will say now, when I said that, someone called me, "Ha! You won, Mr. Neolib." And I'm like, not a neolib. Despite what people might want to call me, I'm not a neolib. But again, whatever helps these people, sleep better at night, I suppose. But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.